Hello, good morning everyone. We are back with another Impress Salesforce Saturday session. We have Ankush Agrawal with us, and this session is on Lightning Message Service with Visualforce page. And Ankush is a 3x Salesforce certified and senior Salesforce developer at IHS Markit, and he is also group leader of Salesforce Developer Group, Bhilwara, India. Hi, this is Praveen Goli. I am Salesforce certified admin and developer and working in TCS, and also one of the star volunteers of New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. These are the social media handles and hashtags of Impact Salesforce Saturday session. You can also join New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group in Trailblazer community so that you can get daily updates about the upcoming sessions. And you can follow our website so you get daily updates. Impact Salesforce Saturday session. This is virtual session organized by New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. As I said before, you can find the past and upcoming sessions in New Delhi Salesforce website. And also you can register from our official website so that you can get daily updates. Talent Central is again initiative which is taken up by New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. It is same like Naukri Indeed. It acts as a bridge in between Salesforce aspiring students and who are looking for job opportunities. And companies looking for talented students, and Talent Central have success stories getting job opportunities with the help of Talent Central. You can again recently New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group started new initiative. Let's implement. Here they are connecting the mentors and mentees along with the mentorship. They will also get the hands-on experience with the which will be guided under the mentors. So this is also a great opportunity. Journey to Salesforce is an initiative taken up by Salesforce Indian Developer Relations. This is the top contributors to New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group, and they are very active in contributing to the group. Thank you so much, guys, for contributing to us. These are the New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group social media handles. You can follow these official channels and get updates every day. Thanks to our sponsors, Cloud Vandana and GreyOps. Thank you so much, guys, for joining today's session. I hope you all have great session, and thank you over to Ankush sir.
Thanks, Praveen, for the introduction. And thanks everyone for joining this session. And we are in the third session on the Lightning Message Services. So we'll be, means in the last two sessions, we talked about Lightning Message Services along with the LWC and Aura components. And in today's session, we'll be talking about along with the Visualforce pages. So how we can use it with the Visualforce pages. So Praveen, is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible, Ankush.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so today we'll talk about Lightning Message Service with Visualforce pages, how we can utilize Lightning Message Service to interact between different Visualforce pages. I'm Ankush Agrawal, so I'm senior Salesforce developer, and I also active on Answers community whenever I get time. And these are my social media handles, LinkedIn, Twitter, or Trailhead profile, so you can connect with me. So today's agenda is first we'll just recap about last two sessions. And then we'll go through again one more time with the flow diagram of Lightning Message Service, then Lightning Message Channel, which is the important part of Lightning Message Service. And then we'll talk about how it can be implemented in the Visualforce pages, and then we'll go for a demo. And at the end, if there is any question, so I'll try to answer them. So first of all, the flow diagram is, as I also mentioned in last two sessions. So any of these three things on an active page or Lightning page, whether it's a Lightning web components or Aura component or Visualforce page. So any of the component on a particular Lightning page, it can publish the message to the Lightning message channel, and another component can subscribe to the same message channel, and they can just get updated on the flow. So on the fly. So we'll just update. We'll just make some update or make some change on this component. It will just publish the message to the message channel, and at the same time, the another component, whether it's a Visualforce page or Aura component, it will just get updated immediately. So this mechanism is introduced to interact between different components. So since Lightning is introduced in last 5-6 years, so still the older companies which are still on Classic, and now they are planning to move to the Lightning, where they might be using Aura components or Lightning web components, but in the past they might be using Visualforce pages as well. And we have multiple bigger applications, or we have pages where multiple components are there. So for an example, if an organization have like 10 components on a specific page, so since most of the companies nowadays work in an agile manner, so there are small sprints of like small chunks, and they just deliver it in different phases. So what in such migration projects, what happens, like I have 2 Visualforce pages on a Lightning page and 2 Lightning components, Aura components, and 5 Lightning web components. So I'll be moving to Lightning web component, but as per the requirement or as per the resource availability. But still on a single page, I'm having multiple different type of components. So I'll be interacting between, I may be interacting between these 2 or 3 components or multiple components. So in such scenarios, Lightning message channel or this Lightning message service can be used to interact between different type of components. So in such cases, it is very useful where like migration is happening, or even in Lightning also, few of the companies are currently working on Aura since it was implemented earlier, and now gradually they are moving to the Lightning web component. So in such cases, they can interact with the Lightning message service. And there are other options like platform events and PubSub models, but still this is specifically introduced to interact between the different components on a Lightning page. So Lightning message channel is an important part of Lightning message service. So this is a source of transmission, like whatever information we want to pass from a publisher. So we'll just pass it on to the Lightning message channel, and then the subscriber can receive that particular message through the message channel. So it's just like a middleware, or you can say the bridge between the two or multiple components. So in the last sessions, we have gone through like how we can define the message channel in our org and how we can utilize it. So today we'll just go with this, and like we'll see if I click on a particular Visualforce page component, and it will just transmit the information to another Visualforce component, and we can just see the data. So it's just an example just to understand how it works. So I have a component contact list, and on a particular record, I'm just clicking on view details button, and on the another component, I can see the details. So it is just an example, but in real life scenario, there can be multiple possible ways where we need to interact between 2 different components. Okay, so now we'll move to the demo. So it is slightly different from last two sessions in Visualforce pages. So let me go to the, yeah, so currently we are in VS Code, and here we have, I already created two pages. One is like this contact detail VF page, and another one is this contact list. So here you can see I have a page block. So hope you are aware about the basic of Visualforce pages. So I'm using standard controller over here on the contact, and I'm just fetching the contact records over here. And then I'm just showing it in a table format. So in table, we have like 3 column, first name, last name, email, and the command button. So on command button, we have OnClick Event. So right now we are not doing anything with this, and we'll be using script, so JavaScript to just interact with the Lightning message channel. And so in the last session, we have explained like the message channel can be defined in this format. So we just have to create one folder over here, message channels. And inside this, we have to create a file which is ending with the message channel dash meta.xml. And this is the format where like the master label is used to interact between the different components, and we'll mention this master label to represent this message channel wherever we want to utilize this message channel. And this lightning message fields, in last session also I mentioned, this is an optional part, but just to make everything in sync, we can define it, and we can define like what type of information we'll passing on to this message channel. So although it is not mandatory, but just for a best practice and to follow a specific standard across the org or across the our application, so we can just define a specific message fields, and we can utilize these particular fields in our interaction between the multiple components or wherever we want to interact with. And if I go to the pad, go to my org, and if I click on a button right now, so I'm not able to see the contact details information on this page or in this component, Visualforce component. So since I have not defined anything on my page, a Visualforce page, so it is not reacting on click event. So what we need to do, first of all, to on click event, we'll be calling one method in the JavaScript. So to utilize JavaScript in Visualforce pages, we use script tags. So inside this script, first of all, we need to define the message channel. So we'll create a variable over here, and we can name it as contact message channel. And it should be in the format of this curly braces and exclamatory, and then the lightning message channel name. So it must be lightning message channel and its name. Okay, now we have defined the message channel, and we'll create a function over here which will be publishing the message onto message channel. So we can name it publish contact ID. And so we have to publish a contact ID, but which contact ID we need to publish? So we are on a table. And for that table, we have this variable CT. For each record, we have like ct.id, which is like the ID of that contact record. So we'll pass it on from this OnClick event, and we'll store it in some variable over here, cont ID. So we can receive that contact ID over here. And then again, we have to create a new variable, which will be a message, what message we want to pass. And as I explained in the last session, it will be in the JSON format, and the parameter can be anything. We can put any parameter, but just to be in sync, we'll be using this lightning message field, and we'll be passing it as a first parameter. So here we'll define contact ID, and its value will be cont ID. Okay, now we need to publish this particular message onto this message channel. So we have two things. One is message channel name, and another is message, what message we want to pass. So in JavaScript, we have one object which is called sforce.one. So this object is specifically used in Lightning. So whenever we'll be using Visualforce pages in Lightning, then sforce one object is automatically created. And just to publish or subscribe or unsubscribe on the Lightning message, so Salesforce created new methods onto this sforce one object. And this is like publish method, and publish method is having two parameters. First is like what is message channel name, and another is like what message you want to pass on to that particular message channel. So this way we can just publish it. But yeah, for now we have just defined this function, but we have to call this function from this OnClick message, OnClick event. So what we have to do over here, we have to mention JavaScript colon and then method name. So it is publish cont ID, and we'll be passing the parameter over here. And parameter is, as we are aware, it is ct.id. So this particular records ID we need to pass. So there may be multiple records in a table, and on whichever record we'll be clicking on this command button. So we'll be passing ID of that particular record, so which is ct ID. And then we just have to return false over here. So now we can verify in the console log if it is publishing the message or not. So console.log, and we can just define message over here, like message is published. Okay, now we just have save it, and we'll just deploy it to the org. Okay, it is saying Lightning message channel is not a okay, let me see okay, it's my mistake. It's not the Lightning message channel, but yeah, it's dollar message channel. So it should be dollar message channel over here instead of what I mentioned earlier. And I also forgot it should be __C. So whenever we'll be defining message channel, it must end with __C. So again, we'll save it and we'll just deploy it to the org. Yeah, so now it is deployed. And if I go onto the page and if I refresh it, and in the inspect, we can see So in console, if I click on the view details, message is published is there, means it is publishing, but we are not able to see any details over here on the contact detail VF page. So because we haven't mentioned anything on the contact detail VF page so far. So now we'll move to the contact detail VF page. And here we have created one, means on the page block section, we are just showing the first name, last name, email, and account ID for a contact record. And here again, we are using standard controller contact. But along with that, we are using one extension over here, which is for, and inside this controller, we have defined update contact ID. So if I go onto the class, this contact detail controller. So inside this controller, we have like update contact ID. So here we are getting the contact ID from the Apex page parameter. And then we are just fetching the details of the contact record, and we are updating this variable contact record over here. And inside VF page, we are using this contact record. So we are using this contact record over here, and its first name, last name, email ID, and account ID we are displaying over here. And this contact record is getting updated based on this controller and on this action. And we have created action function because we need to call Apex method from our script. So what we are going to do on page load of this particular VF page. So first of all, again, we have to define the message channel over here. So first of all, we'll create a variable and we'll name it as contact MC. And again, in the similar way, we have to define it. So $message channel dot message channel name, which we can take it from this master label. And it must end with __ C. Now we have to create one variable, which is subscription. So which will store whether we have subscribed to any message channel or not. So we can name it as subscription. And we can define it as null by default. Then on page load, we have to subscribe to this message channel. So what we have to do, we can use over here window dot on load, and we can call it a function, which is subscribe message channel. Means we can name it anything, and we have to define a function over here, which is subscribe MC. And so while subscribing it, we just have to check over here if subscription is already done, will perform nothing. So we have to check its value. And if it is having something inside it, will not do anything. Otherwise, we have to just update it with the subscription. So for subscription, again, we have to use Salesforce.1 and another method, which is subscribe. And inside subscribe, we have to define again the same thing, the contact MC. See, and the second parameter for this subscribe is a function. So the function, we can define it in a simple format, or we can use an arrow function as well over here. So in arrow function, since we only have one parameter, which is message over here, And so in only one parameter, we can use arrow functions as well, or you can define in the traditional way. So I am using arrow function over here, and the message first will be receiving message, and then we are getting this contact ID from message dot contact ID. So we are aware, like on this message channel, we'll be having contact ID as a parameter. We'll be passing it, and we'll be using it in our Visualforce page. So we just have to use this message, and we just have to update it in this contact ID. And now what we have to do, we just have to call this action function, which we mentioned over on the top. So we'll be calling it with the parameter, which is a contact ID. So we'll be passing this contact ID over here. So now what is going to happen on the Windows on load? So when this VF page will load, the subscribe MCV function will be called. And in this function, we are checking if subscription is null. If it is null, then we are coming inside. So since this exclamatory is, if it doesn't get any value, then we'll be updating subscription with the subscription with the help of subscribe method on S-Force1. So here we are passing this variable. So let me change it. It should be exactly same. And then the method, which is like we are receiving message, and from message we are fetching contact ID and updating the contact ID variable, and we are passing this to the call apex method. So it will call this action function, which is actually will call the apex method update contact ID, and the contact detail will be displayed over here on this page. So we'll just save it, and we'll see if we'll try to deploy it, and we'll see if it will work or not. Okay, so it is successfully deployed. Now we just have to refresh the page. And if I click on view detail, so I'm able to see Arthur's detail over here. So what its first name, last name, email, and account name. And if I click on any other record, so correspondingly, I'll able to see the details of the other contact. So it is working, and it is passing the contact ID onto this contact detail VF page. And in script, we are just getting it, and we are calling an apex method to update it. But in some cases, let's suppose if you just don't want to, if you doesn't require to call the apex method, so you need not to use this. You can just define an ID to a particular field over here, or some apex a tag over here, and then you can just update from the script as well. So, and in the last session, we have seen like the Aura components and Lightning web components as well. So what I have done, I have added two utilities over here on the utility bar. So we have like this contact detail page, and it is an Aura component. And if I click on this view details, so it is showing me on this particular component, which is a Visualforce page. And this one is an Aura component, which we created in last session. So I am clicking on this particular component, and it is showing me on the utility as well. So this is just an example, but just to show you like how it can be used, and you can just utilize it in your real life scenarios where you need to interact between the utilities and the components on a particular Visualforce page, sorry, Lightning pages. So another example is I have another utility where I'm again showing the contact list, but it is on the Aura component. And if I click on the show details, so it is just updating this particular VF page as well, and this utility tab as well. So if you can see, last time I clicked on the team, so it is showing me team's information over here. If I click on any other, if I want to see Lawrence detail, it will show me over here as well, and it will be updated on this as well. So if you remember, so if I just refresh it and we'll load it for the first time. So first time, this contact detail also doesn't have anything. And if I click on this, so it will just update it. So these tabs must be active at least once, and it is opened once, then only we'll able to see the details. So this way we can interact with any of the component in a Lightning page, or on the utility bars if we have any of the component, whether it's Aura component or LWC component. So on an active page, we can interact between multiple components or on the utility bar as well. So that's all from my side, and if anyone has any questions, yeah, we can just try to answer them. Yeah, thanks for joining. So, Praveen, do we have any questions from anyone? Or
no, I think there's no questions in the chat also.
okay. So, just in case if anyone, yes, I think last sessions you can get it from the website or YouTube channel of the New Delhi group, right, Praveen?
Yes.
Okay,
I have posted the links in chat also.
Okay. So I'm just sharing these two links, Salesforce links. So where you can just refer them, and you can just take the help from them to how these message services, or it can be used with the Visualforce pages. Yeah, so utility bar and page, we can interact as just now I shown you. So on utility bar, I was having, let me go over there. Yeah, so on utility bar, we have this list. And if I click on this, so since I click on Jack's record, so it is just updated. So yeah, utility bars can be interacted with the components on a Lightning page. And yeah, this is the, yeah, so just a small thing about the navigation and messaging with the S-Force1 object. So S-Force1 is specifically for the Visualforce pages, wherever like we need to use Visualforce pages on our Lightning, on the Lightning side, or on the Android or iOS app. So in that case, means there might be scenario like the organization is using old Visualforce pages, but still they don't want to create a new Lightning web component due to resource constraint or the billing constraint, but still they can utilize the old Visualforce pages onto the Lightning pages or in the apps as well. So for that purpose, they can refer this as force.one. So there are few predefined functions over there which can be used to navigate between the different Lightning page or different components. And at the end, we have like three new functions, which is first is publish, subscribe, and unsubscribe. So these three are related to Lightning message services. And you can use this sforce.publish or subscribe to publish or subscribe any messages onto the Lightning message channels. So I'm sharing this link as well. So you might need if you will be working on Visualforce pages, although right nowadays we are using very rarely, but still if anyone have like Visualforce pages in their org, so they can just try with this sforce.one object and perform the operations just to utilize in Lightning. Yeah, anything else from anyone? So that's all from my side for today. So
Guys,
I'm just.
guys, any questions to ask Ankush?
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Vishal. Thank you, everyone. So I'm just stopping my screen sharing, but still, if you have any questions or anything, I'm available. Or you can just connect with me on Lightning or on LinkedIn or on Twitter. Okay, Praveen, I think so. There is no question. So
Okay.
can we wrap up?
There is a question again.
Yeah. So why we are returning false in publish page? Yeah. So just because like sometimes we just have to define whether there will be a return or not. So just we are returning as a nothing, means we'll be not returning anything. Since in JavaScript we are calling a function, so we are just defining that we'll not be returning anything from that particular function. So that button should not wait, or user should not wait for completion of that particular function. So that's why we just define that return false. So for Lightning development, so someone asked like if they just want to learn Lightning. So first of all, you can just go with the Trailhead. There are so many modules, and even there are some trails where like you can just refer them. So you can just refer on the Trailhead, and then you can just join such communities and just learn new things from there as well. But yeah, for starting learning, so the Trailhead is the best place where you can just start your learning. Okay, and then another question is like record setware context. Yeah, so record setware is it is like, since we are using standard controller over there, and we'll be fetching all the contexts. So we are just defining a variable name context which we will be using to display all the contact list. So it's just like defining a variable of that particular record. So yeah, it's a standard attribute of Apex page on the Visualforce pages. So someone asked, like, can we perform the DML operations using Lightning message channel? So for that, Sai, what you have to do means you can, but it is not advisable, because what we are doing over here is we are interacting between two different components, right? So for example, on a particular component, you are getting details of particular contact or particular account. So from the user, so user is entering detail on that particular page. And once we'll save it, so at the time save, we'll be doing on the backend DML operation only. This is just using to transmit an information. Okay, this particular account detail is saved. So what we are doing over here is we are just transmitting some information from one component to another component on a similar page. So for example, what I want is, once I'll save the record, it should be reflect in my list. So DML operation I can perform there itself in that particular component itself, but you want it to be performed in some other component. So similar way, you just receive the message through the message channel, and then you can perform the DML operation in the Apex controller, or through, means first you receive the message, and then you can just call the Apex method and store the information. But yeah, it is means as per my understanding, it should be done in the same component, and message channel or this Lightning message service should be used just to transmit the information and just to reflect the similar information on different components. So all should be in sync. Just to make everything in sync, we can just use this. Okay, so Tripti, are you asking some question or is there any other questions or anything?
If the questions are complete, we can wrap up the session.
Sure, Praveen. Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining the sessions, and thanks a lot for your time. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Ankush.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Thanks everyone for joining the session.